make the ground shake.
Good morning, students. My name is Almas Banu. I am a faculty of Davan College, Davangere. Starting with the topic of first chapter in economic microeconomic, as we had part 1, the first video in microeconomic, and I have explained you related to the topic of scarcity and problem of choice, giving 3 examples, that is how a farmer, a teacher and a weaver behave when they are having scarcity of resources and how they are going to take problem into choice into consideration. It was the example of a simple economic. Considering the same concept of a simple economy, let us continue saying that every individual in a society is engaged in production of some goods or services, and she wants a combination of many goods and services, not all of which are produced by her. So this statement explains saying that every individual in the society are engaged in terms of producing some goods and services, but one individual cannot produce all the goods and services. Everyone are specialized in, they are having professional, they are being professional in terms of producing one commodity or some amount of services, but combining all that, making a combination of all the goods and services, they cannot produce it. Okay, needless to say that there have to be some compatibility between what? Between people in the society collectively, what to have and what they produce. So here they are talking about the compatibility. Between whom? They say that there is a compatibility between the people in the society. Okay, that means a producer and a society help together in terms of knowing what is the wants of the society and how the production has to take into consideration. So this collectively mutual understanding between the producer and between the society is known as the compatibility between the people in the society. So here they are given the example. What is the example? They say that the total amount of corns by farming, the total amount of corns produced by the family farm along with other farming units in the society must match the total amount of corn that the people in the society collectively want to consume. So in this example, they are saying that corn production is done by whom? It is done by the family farm. Along with whom? Along with the farming units. Farming units means it is the number of farmers involved in it, and total number of farmers is called as the farming unit, okay, that are available in the society. So here they say that whatever the farmer, a single farmer, individual farmer, and the n number of farmers, the total number of farmers are producing in the society should match towards the amount of the corn that the society can collectively want to consume. Okay, for example, the production is 100 units, but the consumption in the society is 120 units. So collectively all the farmers, that is the farming unit in the society, have to produce 120 units. Why? Because the society is demanding for consumption 120 units and the producer are producing only 100 units. That means 20 unit extra has to be produced because 120 units is the demand of the society and they want to consume 120 units in the society. Getting it? Okay. So I hope this example is clear for you. Next, go towards the situation 1. So here they have given a situation 1 saying that if people in the society do not want as much corn, so here they are saying that people in the society are not interested in terms of consuming corns, okay, as the farming units are capable of producing collectively, a part of the resources of this unit could have been used in production of some other goods or services, which is high demand. So here they say that now the producer are producing 100 units of corns. But here the society is not at all interested. They are saying not want as much corn as the farming units are capable in producing. So farming unit is capable of producing 100 units of corn, but the society is not ready to consume 100 units of corn. the demand is being reduced. When the demand has been reduced, what happens? They have to reduce the production also. The farmers, when they are producing 100 units, but the demand is just for 80 units, they have to reduce 20 units of production, and they have to save the valuable scarce resources. That means they have to save the labor, they have to save the land, they have to save the mechanisms like fertilizer. We are having seeds, getting it. So these all amount of resources that was being eligible in terms of producing 100 units of corn, but though the demand has reduced to 80 units of corn, the resources also has to be reduced. Why? Because these resources are scarce in nature. So this is situation 1. Okay, let us see what is there in the situation 2. In the situation 2, they are explaining, on the other hand, if people in the society want more corn, see, this is vice versa situation. First, in situation 1, they are saying they don't want corn, but in the second situation, they are saying that what if in the society they want more amount of corn. Okay, so compared to what the farming units are producing collectively, the resources used in production of some other goods and services may be reallocated. Getting it? This is important point, or we can say it is an important word over here, reallocation. Okay, reallocate the production of corn. Similarly is the case with all the other goods or services. So in situation 2, they are saying that what if there is more demand for corn in the market? For example, if the farming unit is producing 100 unit of corn, but the demand in the market is 120 unit. When there is 120 units, you have to produce more amount of corn because the society is demanding more corn. Even the production also should be increased by 20 units. How the 20 units you're going to again produce it? By reallocating the resources. For example, if a farmer is engaged in producing corn and rice, but the demand for corn is increasing, that means he is producing less amount of rice, and whatever the resources required to produce rice, he is reallocating the resources in terms of producing more corn. Okay, I hope this is getting for you in terms of what is situation 1 and situation 2. Okay, just as the resources of an individual are scarce, the resources of the society also are scarce in comparison to what the people in the society might collectively want to have. So here in this concept, they are going to explain you what is scarcity of resources. As I have explained you, whenever we are having some individual wants, we have scarce resources. Okay, when we are having scarce resources, we have problem of choice. Same way, when it is applicable to individual, it is even applicable to the society, saying that the resources of the society are also scarce in nature, and collectively the wants of the society can be taken into choice. The scarce resources of the society have to be allocated properly in the production of different goods and services in keeping with the likes and dislikes of the people of the society. So when we are talking about the society, here there is some important point or important word saying that likes, getting it, likes and dislikes. So this likes and dislikes are very important. Whenever a producer take production into consideration, he always keeps the likes and dislikes of the people and he produces the commodities. If the production of corn and rice has been happened by the farming units, but there is more demand for corn but no demand for rice, so what is the farming unit is going to produce? It is going to produce rice? No. Why? Because it is disliked by the society, or we can say there is less demand by the society, so we are producing less amount of rice. Same way, when there is more demand or there is like for corn, at that time the producer always want to produce more amount of corn because it is having more demand in the market. That means more production, that means more consumption, that means more profit towards the organization, that is the farming unit. So whenever producer produces any amount of commodity, likes and dislikes of the people in the society are taken up at more concern. Okay, utmost concern. Now coming towards the next paragraph, Any allocation of the resources of the society would result in production of a particular combination of different goods and services. So allocation of resources means it is all about the land, the resources, the labors, the fertilizers, the mechanism, machineries that has been applicable in terms of producing different goods and services. Okay, the goods and services that thus produced will have to be distributed among the individuals of the society. Now, here, after production, what happens towards the farming unit? They started producing some commodity of corn. After producing corn, what they do? They distribute it. Distribute among whom? Among the individuals of the society. So, when they distribute this amount of commodity in the society, the allocation of the limited resources and the distribution of final mix of goods and services are the two of the basic economic problem faced by the society. Getting it? As you know, the resources are very scarce. The production is also taken into consideration using the scarce resources available with the farmer. Now, production has been happened, corn has been produced. Now, how is that you're going to distribute? Okay, final mix of goods and services means the final product, that is corn, has been produced and it is ready to consume now. Now, who has to consume it? Allocation of the resources has to be done. When allocation of resources has to be done, you have to see that proper distribution has to be taken into consideration. That means each and every person in the society should get these resources. When proper allocation is done, proper distribution is done, then there is no problem. But what if there is a problem in terms of distribution of final mix of goods and services? That means rich people, they having more amount of money, they can purchase lot amount of corn. But what about the poor people? They cannot purchase corn. Why? Because they're having less money. So now this distribution is a major problem in the economy. Production is there, consumption is there, but how is that the economic problem faced by the society faces, that is something related to distribution, is a critical issue in the economy, and this is what we are going to study further. Okay, so next concept, this is a very important concept where you're going to answer this question for 4 marks in your examination. Central problems of an economy, regularly been asked in your examination. So what are the central problems of the economy? Central problem of the economy means what is that in India we are facing the problem related to production, consumption and exchange. Getting it? Okay, so let's see what is that. Production, exchange and consumption of goods and services are among the basic economic activity of life. So whenever we talk economic activities of life, we produce, we exchange, that is distribution is done, and then consumption happens. When you produce, distribution is done and consumption happens, this is called as economic activities of life. If you take a normal routine, we are having a small unit of production in our houses, it is known as our kitchen. So every day you see there is some kind of production in our kitchen. You actually may prepare some meals. Okay, after preparing the meals, only one person eat it? No, you distribute it. Okay, you distribute how much you have to distribute to your father, your mother, your sisters, your brothers, your co-sisters. You distribute your food, and after distribution, consumption is happening. So this is what, this is the economic activity of life. Okay, so in our daily life it has been happening, but when it is economic activity, it is related to monetary reward. It is something related to production. I produce in my kitchen not for profit. Okay, it is my personal amount of need. Getting it? But a farmer produces it, why? Because he want profit. Okay, he exchange it, why? Because he want profit. Consumption is happening, why? Because you're going to buy your commodity from the market. So that is what, whenever you are involved any amount of production, exchange and consumption with the monetary rewards or with the help of money, it is called as economic activity of life. Okay, in the course of these basic economic activities, every society has to face scarcity of resources, and it has the scarcity of resources that gives rise to problem of choice. So this is very clear in the first video, saying that whenever we are having scarce resources, it always gives birth to problem of choices, because I have to select what I have to buy, what I have to not buy. Okay, the scarce resources of an economy has competing uses. In other words, every society has to decide how much to use its scarce resources. Getting it? So this is very important point here. They say that whenever we are having scarce resources, we are having competing usages. Okay, so I have to take a decision in terms of selecting what I have to buy, what I have to not buy. Getting it? Assume that by taking an example, you're going to a grocery market. For example, you're going to Big Bazaars or Reliance Mart. Okay, when you're moving there, you're having 100 rupees in your pocket and you have to buy some amount of essential commodities. Getting it? In that essential commodity, you have to include your normal day-to-day toiletries, you have to involve your day-to-day meals, you have to involve your day-to-day requirement things. So at that time, in that 100 rupees, you don't only buy food, you also have to buy some amount of toothpaste, you have to buy some amount of soaps. Okay, you have to buy some amount of your daily routine, like some amount of perfumes, you want to buy your talcum powder, you have to even buy your food. So where you're having just 100 rupees, you have to carefully select your resources to be used only with that 100 rupees, where the scarce resources have to be decided by the societies. Getting it? Okay, now the same way in the economy also, there are certain problems of the economy where often the society is facing, or we can say it is concerned towards our national wide concept called as the government. Okay, the government is very much concerned. Okay, first thing, what is produced and in what quantity? This is the first question. What I have to produce, and if I'm producing, in what quantity I have to produce it. The second question is, how are these goods produced? Now I've decided what to produce. How much quantity I have to produce has been done. Okay, this is a plan, and I have done clearly plan what I am producing. I am producing XYZ commodity. How much quantity? 10 units, 20 units I have done. Now, how to produce these goods? Okay, what are the mechanisms that I can involve in terms of producing these goods? This is the second amount of question. The third question is, if I'm producing also, who are my target customers? Who are my society people who are going to consume? For whom are these goods produced? I have to select them. So these three are the basic amount of problem the economy faces. Getting it? Let's see this concept into detail. Okay, now here, first question. What is produced and in what quantity? Okay, every society must decide on how much of each of the many possible goods and services it will produce. So every society, okay, every society has to decide how much I have to produce and what I am going to produce. Starting with the explanation, I would like to give you a simple example again related to your kitchen in the houses. See, whenever your mother wants to prepare something, she plans. Okay, she plans what is the breakfast in the morning tomorrow, what I'm going to produce. Okay, either I'm going to prepare some amount of upma, either I'm going to prepare some amount of rice, whether I'm going to prepare some chapatis, idlis, dosas. So this is a prior plan done by a production unit, okay, in the kitchen. So after planning for the production, she even decide what will be my quantity, whether I'm going to produce a quantity of commodity only for my family members, or I have to give to my natives also, that is my relatives or my neighbors also. When you want to give to your neighbors or your relatives are coming in your house as a guest, at that time the quantity increases. Getting it? If you're only consuming the family members in the house, the quantity will be less. In the same way, every society will decide what are the goods I'm going to produce and for how many people I'm going to produce in what quantity. Getting it? Let us see some amount of explanation related to this concept of example. Whether to produce more food, clothing, housing, or to have more of luxury goods. So this is the problem faced by the economy, by the government. Okay, the government has to decide. Okay, if I have some resources which are scarce in nature, I have to have a problem of choice. I have to select whether I'm going to produce food for my nation, I'm going to produce clothing for my nation, I'm going to give housing for my nation, or I'm going to produce luxurious good for my nation. See, for example, in a country there are people who are dying due to famine. Famine means starvation, hungry. Okay, people are very much hungry, they don't get food. At that time, you cannot take a decision in terms of producing more amount of clothing. Getting it? Why? Because the basic problem faced by the nation is food. So at that time, you have to select what to produce is food. Getting it? For example, if people are not having shelter, You cannot produce food because the requirement in the nation or in the country is housing. So you have to produce lot amount of shelters, that is housing facility to the people. So this is how you're going to select what to produce and in how much amount of quantity. Getting it? Next example, they say that whether to have more of agriculture goods or of industrial products or services. As you know, we are having three sectors in our country, in the economy, saying that agriculture sector, industrial sector and service sector. So I have to emphasize the scarce resources. Either I am going to use the scarce resources in producing agriculture goods, either I am going to produce industrial goods, or I am going to use my resources in terms of services. So this decision also has to be taken by the economy. Okay, next they say that whether to use more resources in education, health, or use the resources in building military services. See, we had our situation in terms of what we had a situation in terms of COVID-19. Okay, coronavirus was being affected. At that time, most of the resources was being concentrated in terms of health sector. Okay, education sector, they were not giving the resources, saying that now coronavirus has been affected, build more amount of schools, build more amount of colleges. No, the decision was not being taken by the economy in terms of building more amount of schools and colleges. The decision was being taken in terms of increasing the capability of health. Why? Because that was a need of the economy. Okay, health facility, health infrastructure has to be increased. Getting it? Now the current situation nowadays is happening, there is a problem related to some amount of wars between China, okay, Japan and India. And that time we are preparing our scarce resources in terms of military services. Why? Because military should be very strong, because we have to be ready in any amount of circumstances to fight with other country to protect our nation. So this is the need of the hour. So the resources which are scarce are being utilized in military services. So this is how you're going to decide how to use your service resources in terms of either in which field and in how much quantity. Getting it? Next example, they say that whether to have more of basic education or of higher education. Okay, so here in India, basic education is given more amount of emphasis and importance. Why? Because they think that 0 to 14 years is the right of every children to have education in India. So basic education is a primary important, and that is what, after getting basic education, most of the people, to get more good degrees and to get employed in many amount of good industries or to be businessmen, people move abroad in terms of having higher education. So what is important in India? Basic education is important because it is there as a right of every individual from 0 to 14 years to have basic education as a right. Next, whether to have more of consumption goods or to have investment goods like machines, which will boost production and consumption tomorrow. So here also I have to decide whether I am going to use my scarce resources in consumption goods, producing consumption goods, or in terms of investment goods like coming up with more machines, okay, more amount of equipments. This is being decided by the economic. I hope you people are very clear what is produced and in what quantity, as many examples have been given and good amount of explanation also has been given to understand it better. Okay, next move towards the next question. The next question is second one, faced by the problem faced by the economy. How are these goods produced? Now what to produce has been decided. How much has to be produced is also decided. Now how are these goods produced? What are the mechanism? What are the techniques? What are the tools that I'm going to take into consideration to produce this products? Okay. Every society has to decide on how much of which of the resources to use the production of each of this different goods and services, whether to use more labors or more machine, which of the available technologies to adopt in production of each of the goods. See here, when I talk about how are these goods produced, we are having two intensive techniques. As they are saying, we are having some technologies to be adopted. Okay, I'm having some techniques to be adopted. What are the techniques? They say that laborers or machines. Okay, so which are the available technologies? So which are these available technologies, they are saying. Okay, so whenever I'm adopting a technology, I'm having two technologies. Either I'm going to use labor intensive or machine intensive. Okay, capital intensive. We're having two techniques, we're having two mechanisms, labor intensive technique or capital intensive. Capital intensive means it is all about machinery. Okay, if I am using labor intensive technique, that means more labor intensive. Intensive means more, getting it? So if I am using in producing XYZ commodity, I want more laborers, then it is called as labor intensive. If I am using ABC product to produce, if I required capital intensive, that means I required more machineries but less amount of people. Getting it? This is the meaning of labor or machines, that is labor intensive or capital intensive. Getting it? Now here I'll give you example. If I am having farming into consideration, a farmer always use labor intensive technique. Why? Because he required more laborers in his land in terms of producing food grains. Getting it? If the same example is taken in terms of production unit, like for example, if I'm producing some amount of XYZ commodity in the factory, in terms of manufacturing unit, so in the factory more amount of capital intensive, that means machines are required and less amount of laborers are involved. So here it is very important to know how are these goods produced. Either I have to use more amount of laborers or more amount of capital into consideration. Getting it? Okay, so for example, if I give you an example saying that preparation of chapatis in your house. Okay, preparation of chapatis, like you're having 100 peoples in your house, so what is that you're going to use? If you're having 100 peoples in your house, you can go with what? Machine intensive, because you can have some good amount of capital. 100 people are there every day, you cannot produce 100 people chapatis. If every people are using two chapatis, you have to prepare 200 chapatis in a day, and at that time you can go with capital intensive technique, buy a good amount of machinery, prepare the machinery in terms of preparing 200 chapatis every day. But here when it comes to only 10 people, it is all about labor intensive technique, because 10 people, two chapatis for each people, you can go with the labors, at least 1 or 2 people can prepare this amount of chapati. So this is how you're going to decide what to produce, in what quantity you have to produce. Then you're going to select the technique, either I am using more amount of labors or either I am using more amount of machines. Okay, I hope you're clear with this example. Moving to the third one, for whom are these goods produced? For whom I am actually producing it? Okay, what gets how much, who gets how much of the goods that are produced in the economy? So who are the people in the society and how much goods these people are getting in the economy? Okay, first one, how should the produce of the economy be distributed among the individuals in the economy? Now I have produced it, I have used the technique and I have produced this, the commodity is ready. Now for whom is that the distribution should happen? Whether, as you see, the riches are richer and the poor are poorer. Okay, so whatever I have produced, only rich can consume it. When only rich are consuming it, then what is happening to the poor people in the society? Now this is a problem. There is a problem of allocating the resources or distributing the resources in the economy. So this is a problem faced by the economy. Now here, for whom are these goods produced is an important thing, because distribution is a problem in the economy. Who gets more and who gets less, they say. Okay, and they're asking the question, who is getting more and who is getting less? The people who are capable of buying more goods with money will get more goods. The people who are capable of buying less goods with less money are getting less amount of resources. This is the answer for this question. Whether or not to ensure minimum amount of consumption for everyone in the economy? Yes, you have to ensure that everyone should get minimum amount of consumption for everyone in the economy. That is what we are having a system for poor people, that is called as BPL card holders. Okay, these BPL card holders, what is BPL card holders? They say below the poverty line people. These people cannot afford some amount of resources because they don't have employment opportunity, they don't have skilled laborers. They are the laborers who work for day-to-day incentives, getting it, day-to-day wages. So these type of people cannot survive, because India is a poor country. India is having a lot of higher amounts of poverty rates, getting it. So here BPL card holders will be getting the same amount of resources with less amount of prices. If I assume that you are having 1 kg of rice which is available for 55 rupees or 70 rupees per kg, okay, the quality might differ, but the rice is available 1 kg for 10 rupees, okay, 1 rupee 1 kg of rice has been available for BPL card holders. So this is the facility given to ensure minimum amount of consumption is being applicable to everyone in the economy. That means rich people also and poor people also can actually have some consumption. Okay, whether or not elementary education and basic health services should be available for free in the economy. Yes, sure. Elementary education is the education given by 0 to 14 years. So 0 to 14 years elementary education is free for the people in the society, because it is a right of each and everyone to get free education. And what about basic health services? Yeah, free amount of health services also is being available for everyone in the society. That means poor people can actually have the basic health services for free, and the rich people can pay for the same amount of services. So this is how the distribution is being done of the scarce resources available in the society. Now coming towards the conclusion part, thus every economy faces the problem of allocating the scarce resources or to the production of different possible goods and services, and of distributing the produced goods and services among the individual within the economy. The allocation of scarce resources and distribution of final goods and services are the central problems of an economy. So in the conclusion they say that economic faces the problem of allocating the scarce resources. So this is a major amount of problem. You can produce, okay, you can consume, but you have to allocate good amount of distribution of different possible goods and services to all the people available in the society. This is some amount of economic problem faced by the economy. So this is not only the economy faced in India, this is the problem faced by throughout the country, throughout the world. Getting it? Okay, so here what is the issue? Allocation of the scarce resources are the issue. The distribution of final goods and services are the issue, and these are the central problems of the economy. So with this I'll stop with this part 2 of microeconomic. I hope you people have understood. Any doubts you can clarify with this. Thank you.